Great. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our session, using client feedback to drive revenue and profit growth. So thanks to everybody in the audience that's joined us today. I hope you've had a great DAS event so far. 30 minutes obviously flashes by, so we better get going. But before doing so, I'd just like to welcome Gregor Angus and Emma Evans to the stage, our panelists for today's session. Thank you both very much for being here. So by way of introduction, my name is Liz Hopkinson. I'm a senior consultant at Verity Relationship Intelligence. We run customer feedback programs and offer relationship intelligence to B2B businesses. We help our clients approach relationship management in a strategic manner, hopefully identifying ways for them to increase growth, reduce risk, and also create new opportunities. So helping them essentially manage their customers more effectively. Gregor is a business development partner at AAB with prior roles at EY and ProServe. Gregor has deep expertise in market research and strategic development and is responsible for running AAB's client feedback program in partnership with us, which I'm delighted to say. Emma is a director at Team Spirit, part of the Challenger Group VCCP, and specialises in reputation management for professional and financial services brands. So clients include Forvis, Mazars, Moneybox, and Tesco Bank. Emma leads the agency's client engagement approach, which includes annual reviews and growth plans. So two different ways of collecting client feedback. So hopefully a really interesting discussion for us today. So Gregor, first of all, tell us why you accepted my invitation to join the panel. What's your view on using client feedback to differentiate as an accountancy firm?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Delighted to be here. Thank you to VerityRI for the invite. I guess two questions there, one a lot easier than the other. So first up on the invitation, I mean, for me, this it speaks to service excellence, it speaks to client satisfaction, and it speaks to business growth. Probably the three areas of business that excite me most. So it was an absolute no-brainer to come and join you in the session. I think the second piece around differentiation is a lot harder to ask. I mean, the accountancy world is a very congested place. And like a lot of companies in that space, AAB is a pure play service company. We don't have product or technology to hide behind. It's about the work that our technical teams do, and as importantly, the way that they do it. And that really came shining through from our last survey, even when unprompted, in terms of the questions that Verity designed. What our clients spoke to was how we do things, not what we do, but how we do them. How we help them overcome their obstacles and reach their business goals. So really important for us to have alignment around that. We've also been in our own growth journey. So we took PE investment about 3.5 years ago. In that time, we've completed 15 acquisitions. So the business has really morphed. What's been a key component throughout that period has been within the diligence process is identifying businesses that are super aligned with us in terms of prioritising client centricity. For me, that's where I think differentiation comes through. Clients in this space expect technical excellence. That's not enough in isolation. What they're looking for is an advisor who understands their challenges, can help them overcome them, understands their goals, and can help them achieve them.
Great, thanks, Gregor. Sounds like a busy few years for you there at AAB, but I'd absolutely agree. If I think about, I guess, the clients that we work with in this sector, it's absolutely about the how you do something, not necessarily just the what you do. Things like partnership, client service, teams and individuals are praised typically more than we see actually in other sectors. So yeah, really important point. So Emma, is Gregor's view one that you share, and how at Team Spirit do you view the marketplace at the moment? What makes the sector unique when it comes to driving client growth?
Yeah, I think absolutely it is something that I would agree with. And like Gregor, thank you very much for having me here today. This is definitely a subject that's very close to my heart. At VCCP, I'm responsible for kind of client retention as well as client excellence, and it's something that we as a business have become laser focused on. I think, like many organisations, understanding how we can look after the clients that we have as well as potential new ones is something that has been sharply brought into focus. and having the right sort of intel around you to help shape and inform that, it can only be a good thing. I think the challenge is, and I would say this with my reputation hat on, is ensuring that you are known for the things that you think you're known for, and making sure that that is abundantly clear to clients in all of your communications. And often, as you've both said, it's not necessarily around the what that you do. It can sometimes just be the little things, the little value adds that you show. That's what typically clients will remember you for. That's what they'll come back for, and crucially, that's what they'll recommend you for. So I think that's very important. I think at VCCP, we definitely see ourselves as that challenger agency. And by that, I mean we've worked very, very hard to lean into bringing that sort of challenging mindset and innovation to the table, because that, I think, is the core differentiator to answer your question, Liz.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess, to be able to challenge a client's thinking or business, or to add value in that way, really, we've got to strive to be trusted advisors in all of the businesses that we work for. So perhaps one of the questions today, therefore, might be, how do we actually get to be a trusted advisor? It's a term that we're all used to using all the time, but what are the challenges or barriers to achieving that? How do they materialize? What can you plan for, and what do you need to react to? So what have the challenges been for you, Emma? Challenges and barriers to becoming that trusted advisor for your clients?
Yeah, I can happily talk about a few of them. I would say that actually, though, I'm very much kind of glass half full girl when it comes to this. I think any kind of feedback, anything we can learn as we go along that journey of becoming the trusted advisor, can only be a good thing. I think mainly in terms of barriers and challenges, they have been, for the most part, internal. I think often there can be a real kind of quandary around timing. When is an optimal time to reach out and see exactly what your client thinks of you? And often I hear so many conversations internally where people will say, "Oh, hold off on that review for a little while because we've had a bit of a bumpy couple of months." But actually, that's, I would argue, that the absolutely the right time to do it, and to lean into that, and to see really embrace some of the change and understand exactly what it is that we need to be addressing. I think client side, it's slightly less of a challenge. I think in my experience, most clients are very willing to share feedback quite freely. What has been really encouraging, though, is just the reciprocal nature of that, in that a number of our clients have also actively said, "We'd really like to know what you think about us and what our role in this relationship is." So I think that's an interesting dynamic, seeing that it is much more of a kind of mutual meeting of minds rather than just this sort of contractual obligation. And I think back to the sort of internal one as well, one of the biggest challenges for us as an organisation has been putting the right processes around it, and making sure that people are really clear on what their role within that client experience is, and taking some ownership of it.
Yeah. Gregor, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could agree with Emma much more if I tried to be honest. So
It's not just because we're Scottish.
indeed, well, I'm slightly more on the pessimistic side, being from the northeast of Scotland. So I guess if I take the challenges, I think you're absolutely right in and around that internal mindset piece. And for us, I feel it comes from a really, really good place. A lot of our team members recognise how busy our clients are in their day-to-day jobs, and there's almost this apologetic angle around us asking for feedback.
Yeah.
We're overly protective of our clients' time at points. But I think, what we heard in the survey was that actually our clients welcomed the opportunity to feedback, the good and the bad. There was lots of learnings that they were really open and transparent in terms of what they shared. So, I think for us, it was about coming over that, or getting over that mindset of, we need to protect the client's time. Actually, for us to be the best advisors we can be, we have to be in tune with our clients' needs and wants. And then on the client side, I agree completely, Emma. It's far easier from that side. In fact, I'd say we're pushing against an open door. I think clients want an advisor who's actually invested in understanding that this relationship is working, that it's creating win-wins. So I think, we saw it within the response rate around the volume of people that took up the opportunity to feedback on what we're doing, that clients are engaged. They want to share what's working well, but also they want to give you a little pointer and a steer as to where you can do a little bit more.
I was going to just add, actually, Gregor, that behavioural point, I guess, that you sort of nod to is actually a really interesting one, because I think often, particularly in the industry that we're in, you can always have that sort of subservient role between kind of, client and supplier. But actually, I think what you're seeing more and more is that real sort of shift in balance, and the challenge being encouraged and invited on both sides. And that's not, I think, often challenging is always almost seen as a negative, to your point, Gregor, whereas actually it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's the mutual sort of win-win and the shared goals and yeah, working together in partnership in sort of a genuine way, I guess, that makes the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so investing in customer experience and sort of a measurement in whichever way you're doing it is obviously a business commitment. It takes time, investment and resource, but hopefully with fantastic output. But what were the drivers for AAB, Gregor, in deciding to formalise the activity there and sort of measuring customer sentiment?
Yeah, for us it was a strategy refresh. So around about this time last year, the firm created a new 5-year strategic plan. Within that, there were 4 strategic priorities, one of which was around client centricity, and with NPS being the key metric around how we measure success in that area. So for us, we knew that it was NPS that we wanted to measure. We probably didn't have the skill set or the capacity, the resource in-house to come up with the survey and develop it, to get team members internally lined up to play their part in it, to get clients on board with it in terms of engagement. If we'd managed to get that bit right, I think we would have fallen down at the next hurdle around collecting the data and actually turning the data into insights. And certainly the bit that we would have fallen down on was being able to benchmark that against other firms in our space or companies of a similar size or at a similar stage in their journey. So therein enter VerityRI. I mean, I think for us that was a key component. And if I maybe share my kind of rationale why, I was probably a bit of a wounded animal when we came into this, because 12 months prior, and this was before client centricity was etched into the strategic plan, we conducted an NPS survey. It was probably a bit more tick box at that point, right? It felt like something we should be doing, so let's tick the box and do it. The consequence of that was that my decision as a buyer was more based on price. It was more of a commoditized buying decision. The consequence of that was we crafted a pretty poor survey that got pretty poor engagement, that gave us pretty limited insights, and then kind of on us, we then didn't develop a plan to implement the actions off the back of it. So I think the commitment that we got from our side was around having this regular cadence of a meaningful survey that was going to drive actions. And I think getting VerityRI as the partner there really helped us from a couple of angles. One, in terms of the expertise and experience and credentials that they were able to bring to administering the survey, conducting the survey. But where they've really helped was in keeping us honest around the actions that we were going to do, guiding us around best practice, and also the mistakes to avoid as well. So, for us, it's been a commitment, but I think having it etched into the strategic priorities has been really, really key to making it successful.
Yeah, well, thank you, Greg. Obviously, that's really great to hear. But yeah, making it sort of a fabric of the way you work with your clients is a really important part of all this. And I guess naturally, we all want to deliver, fantastic client experience. Of course we do. But at the end of the day, we're all businesses too, and really we want to grow. So, one of the big opportunities from client feedback and collecting it is not just improving the service, but obviously it's identifying the growth opportunity, making that commercial link, spotting those new opportunities and helping it to ultimately drive revenue. So with that in mind, how have you used relationship intelligence data to enhance sort of cross-selling and unlocking areas for growth, as well as issue management, Emma?
Yeah, we've formalised it, I think, is the simplest way of putting it. I think it was always something that we did, but probably not with as much consistency and rigour as we needed to apply to it. And almost treating it a little bit like we would apply the mentality with our clients. So we took quite a pragmatic approach to it. We built a kind of client evaluation tool where we developed a quadrant, 4 quadrants, just so that we could have much more understanding and greater visibility around the sort of relationships that we thought we had with clients. We work in communications and financial services, do some marketing comms as well as reputation management. And the nature of that beast is that we can show up for clients in very, very different ways. Some of that can be quite project in nature, therefore it sort of lends itself to a slightly more vendor relationship. Then we can also have more retained, sort of chunkier pieces that we have on the reputation side, because often that's how clients prefer to engage. And that's where we're looking at more of that sort of trusted advisor. So I think by segmenting it and having that quadrant in place that was really simple for everybody to sort of understand and map the clients against that, it gave us all a lot more kind of consistency, visibility, and it became far, far easier to sort of share with each other and collaborate and look and see where there might be, I don't really like the term cross-selling, but maybe it is more, it's understanding where there would be needs that we could fulfill for clients, and being much more open across the agency to be able to do that. And I think also it allowed us to sort of aspirationally look and see, okay, from a sector basis as well, different pockets, there might be a far greater need for that. And also having that acceptance across our teams that if we were in that vendor space, that's okay. We might never show up as that kind of trusted advisor for clients, but having the insights and the visibility there will make a difference and shape and inform how we do it. And it then helped us sort of go into those qualitative insights, which we do in the form of client reviews. We try and do them, if not biannually, then at least annually, and standardised a bit more of the process across how we were doing that, and enabled our teams as well, to Gregor's point earlier, to sort of go into those conversations with a little bit more confidence and reassurance as to what they were asking about and why we needed to know it. And then how we were reporting that back. And as I say, my job is to make sure that that is reported back to board, and that we track it.
Yes, tracking, important for sure. Can't get away from numbers in this sector. So, Gregor, how have you practically used the data as well there at AAB?
Yeah, well, happy to go into that, but I think also we might change our approach slightly. I really love that quadrant
Do you want to
analogy.
see the quadrant? I will show you the
I do,
quadrant.
yeah.
Very happy to do
I've made
that.
a distinctly average career out of copying and pasting, so I think that may be the next thing on my list to do. So yeah, for us it was segmentation's the similar theme. So we kind of split our client respondents out into advocates, to passives and detractors. And I guess what that allowed us to do is we're a matrix organization, right? So we've got business units, we've got those kind of deep technical offerings, we've got sector expertise, and then we've got a geographic lens to it as well. So for us, the wrong thing to do would have been to come out with, right, here's the feedback from clients, these are the top 3 actions that we're going to implement across the group. It just wouldn't have made sense to large parts of it. But we were able to dissect the data into quite granular levels. So we look at things from a business unit lens within each geography, and then come up with the right actions based on that sample of the data. So yes, we can look overall at what's happening, but actually it's really key to get down into the nuts and bolts at grassroots and respond to the feedback that we've had from clients. So what does that look like? For advocates, that's where we feel we can really drive the cross-sell opportunities. They're the people that love you, they trust you, they value the work that you do, they value the relationship. That's so easy to play in additional service lines too. So, for us, one of the exercises we looked at was where you've got advocates, are we making sure that we've got multi-service lines in there? If not, let's make those introductions. I think the passives are really interesting. So actually when we went into the detail of the feedback that came into the passives, and you can probably split it because passives is the largest banding. If you divide it into 2 and focus in the top area there, the feedback we were getting was phenomenal, but obviously just not quite enough for the client to kind of score us at that top end of advocacy. So there's been a bit of a double down on those relationships. We made the commitment to track NPS score over the next 5 years and hopefully deliver significant growth on that. So where we will achieve the growth is in moving those passives up to advocates. And then the final piece around detractors, naturally this has a big impact on the score as well. So yes, we want more advocates, but we also want less detractors. So for us, issue resolution was important as well, and actually quite easy to pick up off the back of. We were a little bit nervous at first as to how do you go about contacting your client when they've said something that you don't really want to read. But actually the worst thing we could have done was say nothing. We've got to address that. We've got to show that we're listening. So we've done that really well. I think the other important metric for us coming out of this was engagement. So, if I look at the survey that Verity conducted for us, that delivered twice as many, it doubled the percentage of respondents that we had coming through. And that was something that our team members really latched onto, was almost not the score, but how engaged are my clients? Do they want to engage in feedback there? So identified some clients that we thought, they love us. We've got a great relationship with them, but they didn't respond. Why is that? Let's go and check in with them. So it presented lots of excuses for good client conversations. I think what it told us was quite simply what delights clients and what frustrates them. And that's hugely powerful for any business to know. But also what that conjures up is that conjures up a lot of emotion. Our team members really work hard for clients, and it's great when you get that positive feedback, but it can be a little bit challenging when the feedback isn't quite where you want it to be. And I think that's where having a partner like Verity, they really helped take the emotion out of things and allowed us to make some data-led decisions, which for me was hugely powerful.
I was going to add a thought to that as well. I think for us, because we are we're communications reputational professionals, so we're actually quite good at doing our own PR and patting ourselves on the back. So I think for us as a business, internally, we were very internal focused. We were very able and adept and quite good at sort of, marking our own homework and awarding ourselves scores along the way. What was really challenging for us culturally as an organisation. And again, because when I joined Team Spirit, I came from a different perspective. I came client side. So I was able to sort of bring and inject and insert the client into that conversation at all times, rather than it just being, oh, we've won tons of awards for this. We get recognised really good. And, isn't that creative work stunning? Yes, it is. But how much more powerful would it be to hear that from the client side? And also to do it with them in collaboration rather than us just high-fiving ourselves. We still do it, but just not quite as much.
Yeah, it's important to celebrate along the way. Of course it is. But actually, yeah, taking a minute to step back and actually celebrate the work that you're doing helps with employee engagement too. So actually the customer feedback approach, however you do it, can be a really useful way to engage your teams. And to go back to something that Gregor, you said a moment ago about response rates, obviously response rates are critical with any kind of activity like this to give you great ROI, but also to make sure you've got enough data and enough insights to actually provide validity to your findings and to then your actions. But actually, response rates can also give you a really good indication of how engaged your internal team are at that point, because they're the ones that are encouraging responses from your clients. They're the ones that are taking action and following up with clients. And therefore, if customers and clients stop responding to these activities that we do, it sort of probably tells you that actually your team isn't engaged either. So yeah, the response rate does become a very sort of interesting metric in all of this.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just chiming in there as well on the team member engagement. I mean, I think that's really important. There's a little bit of, when we first started to do this, it feels a bit Big Brother's watching me a little bit, but actually what this has done is presented the opportunity for so many good conversations with our team members to share the fantastic things that our clients have been saying about them, and that has such a positive impact on morale. So, for us, being really transparent in the findings was key. Having our leaders having those sidebar conversations with team members around, read this. This is what your clients are saying about the service that you provide. This is outstanding. Yeah, they're brilliant conversations to
Yeah,
have.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Well, this has been such a great discussion. I guess what I'd like to do is to be able to leave the audience with some takeaways.
Sure.
So perhaps, Gregor, what are the key things that you think you would say in terms of how you use feedback to drive growth?
Yeah, I think I'll probably share my pearls of wisdom for what they're worth around how we got it wrong before, and I feel I'm now a survivor of that, and I've come out the other end. So firstly, for me, it's about getting those building blocks right internally. So that for us was having client feedback, client satisfaction clearly marked within our strategy. That allowed leaders to get really on board with that, but also to make that visible and to permeate that through the organization from top down. This, for me, how your clients feel about the service you provide is too important for it just to be a tick box exercise. Far too important. Secondly, for us, it's about, finding the right partner, and I feel we've done that in Verity RI. For my money, there's too many businesses out there that have commoditized this sort of service, that can lead to kind of options that don't unlock the right sort of value. For me, what you want is you want a business that brings that expertise and that experience, but also somebody that listens. And I felt really listened to throughout the process. I felt that the survey that we developed was co-developed. I didn't feel it was forced on me. I also felt that Verity didn't let me run away with what I wanted to do. They leaned in with their expertise, which was really, really powerful. And the final piece to me, and certainly one of the key areas where we fell down the prior year, is use the information, use the insights. It gives you an opportunity to have data-led actions, which can be really, really powerful. So they would be the three things from me, Liz.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gregor. And Emma, and what about your sort of takeaways?
I would agree with a lot of what Gregor said there. I think I would add to that. I think it's about having the right mindset. Spoke quite a lot about that earlier, about getting yourself in the right frame of mind to embrace the feedback and to go and find out how you can use it and make it work for you, rather than it just being a tick box exercise. Listen, listen. I think that is, I was always taught we have two of these and one of these for a reason. And I think it's not just hearing what we want to hear, but also hearing all the other things as well, and being able to take action from that, whether that's an internal action or something you want to take back to your client. I think the active listening phrase is probably overused, but it's definitely one to bear in mind. And then I think the third one is about anticipate. Don't wait for the proverbial to hit the fan. Just grasp the nettle, lean into it, find out what you need to know, because the knowledge will be power, and nobody will ever shy away from. Believe you me, if they want to talk about problems, they'll welcome it with open arms. Sometimes you just got to take it on the chin.
Indeed. No perfect time to go out and get the feedback, but
No, would that there was, Liz. There just isn't.
fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, both. And thank you, everybody, for listening to today's session. Hopefully, there's been some good insights there for you. If you'd like to learn any more or ask any questions, then we'll spend some time just near the stage after, if you'd like to continue the conversation. But thanks, everybody.
Thank you.